Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, Chairman Larson, Ranking Member Graves, and Chairman of the full committee, Chairman DeFazio, and distinguished members of the Aviation Subcommittee. I want to thank you for your attention to this important topic and for inviting me to testify before you today. As a point of personal privilege, if I could just take a moment just to congratulate Chairman DeFazio. Like me, he'll be retiring at the end of this year. Mr. Chairman, I thank you for your leadership of this committee, but in particular your support and attention to people with disabilities, especially given your background in your previous life. I wish you well in the next chapter. I'd also like to thank the other witnesses for being here today and for their ongoing work in support of air travel accessibility. This issue is deeply personal for me, as you can imagine. I've been a wheelchair user ever since 1980 when an accidental gunshot left me paralyzed. In addition, I'm the first quadriplegic ever to serve in the United States Congress. As you're all well aware, of course, serving in Congress requires a significant amount of air travel. At a minimum, we're expected to travel back and forth between our districts in Washington, D.C. whenever the House is in session. My hometown of Warwick, Rhode Island, is approximately 350 miles away from the U.S. Capitol. By train or car, that trip generally takes 6 or 7 hours respectively in each direction. By airplane, it takes approximately 1 hour to hour and a half at most. As you can see, for me, accessible air travel is a must because without it, I would not be able to do my job effectively. Throughout my career, I estimate that I've flown more than 1,000 commercial flights, both domestically and internationally, and the vast majority of which have been without issue. However, flying as a wheelchair user, even when everything goes as planned, is a complex process that typically involves reserving accommodations in advance, making multiple surface transfers while boarding and deplaning, as well as having my chair brought from the gate of the opening of the door of the plane up a jetway on an elevator, then into the belly of the plane, and then the reverse process when I land. And of course, on the plane, restricted mobility while on board the aircraft. The best case scenario is an exhausting trip. However, when something goes wrong, the consequences can range from inconvenient to catastrophic. Since 1986, the Air Carrier Access Act has served to protect the rights and safety of air travelers with disabilities. Despite the protections afforded by this law, people with disabilities continue to encounter significant barriers when they fly. So this includes damaged assistive devices and wheelchairs, denied boarding, delayed assistance, poor communication, and lack of accessible seating accommodations, all things that I have personally experienced. In the past year alone, I've been wrongfully denied boarding on multiple occasions because my wheelchair's lithium-ion batteries, despite presenting documentation that they met all applicable safety standards as determined by the Federal Aviation Administration. Lithium-ion batteries are becoming increasingly prevalent in assistive devices, which means that these incidents will only occur more often. That's why I'm working to introduce a bill that I call the Wheels Chairs on Airplanes Act to ensure that airlines' policies for lithium-ion batteries in wheelchairs and other assistive devices are no more restrictive than applicable FAA safety standards. On another occasion, several years ago, I remember watching through the airplane window as a baggage handler was sending my wheelchair up to the jet bridge on the belt loader. They placed it on the belt loader without holding it or locking it in place, and I watched as it rolled off the belt loader as the belt loader was raised to the jetway as it crashed down to the ground. Well, I have to tell you, I still get an uneasy feeling every time my wheelchair is brought out of the cargo hold. After all, if it's damaged, I'm stranded. My wheelchair is essentially my legs. As you will hear from other witnesses today, my experiences are not unique. In fact, in 2018 alone, passengers in the United States filed more than 36,000 disability-related complaints with airlines. I think we can all agree that the status quo is unacceptable. So that's why I've been working to improve air travel accessibility throughout my time in Congress. For example, I introduced language during the 115th Congress to create an Airline Passengers with Disabilities Bill of Rights. With the support of this committee, that language became law as part of the FAA Reauthorization Act of 2018, and I thank you. This Congress, I introduced H.R. 1696, the Air Carrier Access Amendments Act, with Representative Titus and Cohen, both of whom serve in this subcommittee, and I thank them for their partnership. In closing, H.R. 1696 proposes a two-pronged solution. Namely, it would improve air travel accessibility while holding airlines accountable when they violate passengers' rights. Overall, we must work to break down all barriers in our society so that people with disabilities can live more full and independent lives. Air travel must be a part of that effort. With that, I'd like to thank you once again for your attention to this important issue, as well as the opportunity to testify. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your leadership and your support. Thank you.
Jimmy, we're going to miss you here in Capitol Hill, and Rhode Island will be better for it, for you being back home. But we don't want you to be a stranger, as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate your words.
And thanks for setting up the rest of the panel discussion for us, the rest of the hearing discussion for us with your testimony. We'll take a few minutes for representative to move and clear some space, and we'll ask the second panel to come up.